All right, thank you.
Okay. Oh, and just make sure you mute yourself, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone here today for December 23rd, 2024, our special call board meeting. I want to welcome those in attendance as well as those streaming online. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call the roll. And before the clerk, Director Miller and Director Andrea, when they call your name, if you'll show your faces for that, I know the city attorney is going to ask.
Director Miller. Director Richardson. Director Peck. Here. Director Hines. Director Lewis.
You'll turn your volume up, Director Lewis, or off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. Director Miller, if you'll.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
She might not.
We can hear you.
Is it not? Y'all can't hear me?
We can hear you. I'll call
Hello?
you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Director Miller.
Here.
All right.
Director Wyrick. Director Campiris. Director Phillips. Present. Director Adcock. Vice Mayor Webb. Mayor Scott.
Present. We'll now have an invocation from Director Phillips.
Everyone will humble themselves if we take a moment. Dear Lord, we come to you always grateful for your continued grace and mercy and protection that you provided to each of us being here. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the city. I know that as a Christian in your word, it tells us that if we ask for wisdom, you shall give it to us liberally. We ask for wisdom for each of our board members to do the work that we are here to do. As you continue to protect everyone who works on behalf of the city and protect them and their families during this holiday season. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you would, please read ordinance number 1 for the second reading.
An ordinance to provide and to adopt the 2025 budget for the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for the period beginning January 1, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025, to appropriate resources and uses for every expenditure item and operating fund, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. Second reading.
Is there a motion for the third reading? There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say nay.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Third reading. There's a roll call. Madam Clerk.
Director Adcock. Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Peck. No. Director Lewis.
Aye.
Director Wyrick. Director Campiris. Director Phillips.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Webb.
Motion.
6-2.
6-2, motion passes. Madam Clerk, if you would. Motion, you got to have 8.
You got to have 8.
For the suspension. That being said, members of the board, there any reason why you don't want to go third reading? If not, we can schedule the next meeting for either tomorrow or December the 26th at noon. Being that the city has a self-imposed rule for having the budget passed by December 31st, we only require it by February 1st. And in that event, if you all do not want to meet on tomorrow or December the 26th at noon, we would then schedule it for January the 7th. Director Peck?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Tom, is that correct? Do we not have until January 31st to pass the budget?
It's a,
Just tab it one time, Tom.
state statute says that the city has to have a budget in place by February the 1st. The city has an ordinance, as the mayor suggested, that says it will be done by December the 31st. So in terms of being in compliance with state law, you have till February the 1st. As I mentioned the last time, if you do not get one by December the 31st, then you will need to do something to deal with the fact that your ordinance says that's when you're to have it by.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, I'm not prepared, and I think we see a lot of our firefighters in the room today. I know that there's an impasse. I know that you are not necessarily fond of us talking to the firefighters. However, I have a lot of constituents, and my job is to listen to my constituents who are firefighters, and I'm not prepared to do this while they're at an impasse.
Yes, ma'am. Members of the board, we will continue to be at impasse, but the deadlines are what they are, December 31st or January 31st. I want to make certain that everyone knows that the impasse has nothing to do with any monetary issue at all. So it has no bearing on the budget at this time.
How can it not have a monetary?
Because it's the issue at hand is budget neutral. So it's no monetary issue. Director Phillips, then Director Adcock.
Mayor, I'll just give a point of clarity. I know people tune in and want to know what's going on. So I always like to take a step back, and this is for the public. We just had the second reading. We didn't have 8 votes to get to a third reading. So by rule, we'll have to have a separate meeting to get to the third reading to actually vote on the budget. And Mayor, are you saying we're doing that this Friday?
I would like to get the pleasure, I know there's some board members that will be out of town on the 26th, but that doesn't preclude them from joining virtually. Really, I just want to get first I need to make certain, does the board want to disrupt their self-imposed rule and go against city code and city law? That's the first question. If so, then we can schedule it for January 7th. If not, the question is, do we want to meet tomorrow at noon or December the 26th at noon? That's really the question, because we'll then have 3 readings and then it's just an up or down vote.
What's the difference in today and tomorrow?
We could
And
actually,
what's the difference with tomorrow and the 26th? I'm just asking, where are we gonna?
no difference in the time. We could call for another special call meeting since it's now 12 for 2:03 or 2 hours from the exact time right now, and then have a third reading, actually have a vote. We can get it all done today, and that complies with Freedom of Information Act, because we got to give a 2-hour notice. So we can still meet today since everyone's here, and then go to the third reading. As I shared with members of the board, the issue at hand, as we understand it, it is not a monetary issue, so it has no bearing on the budget from that standpoint. And if we do not pass it today, again, we can do it today, 2 hours from now. We can do it tomorrow at noon. We do know tomorrow's Christmas Eve. Clearly, the City Hall is closed on Christmas Day, and we can do it on the 26th. There are some board members that they have some plans that they can't change after the 26th. And so if we don't do it today, tomorrow, or the 26th, then we will need to do it on January 7th, which complies with state law, stating that we have to have it done by February 1st, but goes against city law, which says we have to do it by December 31st.
Okay, I guess I was just asking, are these hours going to give certain individuals time to do whatever it is they need to do to be able to vote?
Right. We are where we are. Director Peck shared there's an impasse. It's my understanding both sides have to agree to it. I need to get to my chief people officer to confirm that, but we haven't agreed to an impasse. But if the other side is, that means that their membership has said no to what's been put before them. Is, to my understanding, there hasn't been a scheduled meeting with the membership like it has with police. So I don't think the membership has voted anything down. So I know the police have approved theirs, and also went to the city attorney. So we're really just talking about fire. Director Adcock?
Okay, I was going to ask you what's wrong with the 27th, 28th, 29th, or 30th.
There are some members of this city board who are on vacation, and there's some members of the city board who have some appointments that they've scheduled.
Okay.
That's the reason why, that would be the only reason why I said anything.
So we would listen to that, and then if somebody has something scheduled for the 26th, we won't listen to that one?
No, I said there's, as you can see, I'm not sharing anything. There is a few board members who have things scheduled on the 26th. I think they could show up virtually, so that's not an issue. But I do think starting on the 29th, there are some city board members who have some appointments that they can't reschedule, and they won't be available. So I'm just being very realistic.
Okay, I had a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, one is on looking at the homeless service division, the part of the budget. We went to a meeting here, several of us, and when they came before the board meeting, I thought we all had kind of agreed that we was going to look at going forward the same way that Nashville had. But I don't see anything in the budget. I see lots of more positions, but I see nothing about studying what we have in Little Rock right now so we can move ahead with something like Nashville did.
Yes, ma'am. Members of the board that I'm aware of number one, the only new money that we put towards the 2025 budget is for homelessness and housing. Homelessness, housing, and of course, I think some police technology. No, not police technology. Homelessness and housing, and I think that's actually it. All the new money was homelessness and housing. I have to ask, and the raises for the raises. So that being stated, we agreed, and we've talked to the folks who brought the Nashville folks here, and they think we've made a lot of headway by adding the additional new positions in homelessness, which will allow one of those positions, being a data position, allow us to compete for the grants that Nashville has. And so what Nashville has is because they were able to get $30 to $40 million in grant funding, and to do that appropriately is to have these additional positions plus the data position, and a data position helps with the grants dollars. So we have everything based on the group who actually brought them here. They're very satisfied with what we've done in this budget.
Okay. And so we're having 3 new positions for homelessness.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we doing anything about, we get so many complaints about those camps and everything in our community, but I see nothing in here that we're really going to do more enforcement.
Yes, ma'am. That'll enforcements, and one, we have a strict camp rule and regulation that's administered through police, as well as our homeless division, on how we interact, because the goal is to always to engage our unhoused residents, educate them on the services, and then make certain that they understand the law of where they can and cannot camp out. And so this will be helpful in that process. But again, these positions are specifically to do exactly what you all asked us to look into in the budget as it relates to Nashville.
Okay, also, in looking at a list here of did we talk about having a study done on positions? And are we moving forward with that?
Yes, ma'am. You all last year or a year and a half ago approved a compensation study. It is complete. I think they're going through the finalization. They're finalizing the presentation to bring before the board in the first quarter. But I think as our Chief Financial Officer, Nick Sharpie, shared, as well as our Chief People Officer shared and Richard shared, in a nutshell, to make it really come to reality, is an additional $800,000 to fully enforce the compensation study.
Okay, I noticed on looking at some of the people that had been added, chief data officers, chief equity officer, communications, marketing manager, and everything. Where can we find a list of these employees? I guess they're all filled now, and the job and the salaries and everything.
We gave that to you 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I might add, all of those positions predate me, except for the chief data officer was originally the performance and innovation coordinator position, which has always been in the city. So I just want to make sure there's a clarification there. All of those positions have been at the city and predates me, number one. And number two, the only new positions that have been added to the city are the positions that this city board approved, which include the chief education officer, the chief equity officer, and the chief homelessness officer, which is also part of the Nashville model that you just recently shared. So all three, over a period of 2 to 3 years, have been approved by the City of Little Rock Board of Directors. So there are not any new positions. We have not added any new positions that this city board has not approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Director Wyrick, and then we'll go to Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I'm available any of those days that you mentioned. So whichever works out for the most folks to be here, I'm available. The other thing I wanted to say in regards to, I know we've got a room of firefighters here today, and it's my understanding that there were a few items that there was not an agreement on, and that as of Friday, the changes that were made in that meeting were supposed to go to the rank and file for a vote. And I don't know if that's happened in regards to the changes that were made, but the one thing that has been addressed to me that is most important to them is the scheduling change. And that piece of the negotiations is not a budget item. The other two items were. And so that's the reason why I have said that I would go forward with the budget, because that one item really is neutral in regards to additional money to the city. Can you verify that, or I don't know how?
Yes, we can verify that. Again, our last offer, and again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but we gave an offer, and the sticking point has been a non-budgetary item. As recently as this morning, we even made another concession on the financial end, but nothing on a non-monetary side. So we have no non-monetary. The issue is non-monetary as we understand it.
Okay, thank you.
And to my knowledge, the entire 100% of the membership has not voted on anything.
Okay, thank you.
Director Phillips? You guys tap it one time, Mr. Attorney.
Knock 3 times.
Off again. Hands up.
Okay.
Okay, I'll keep my hand over here.
It goes off even when you're.
Just speak up loudly. We can hear you.
I just want to point out that if you're trying to do something between now and the 31st.
Yes, sir.
That you can have a third reading to pass the ordinance, but you will still need 8 votes to pass the emergency clause, or the ordinance doesn't take effect for 30 days.
Right, and that'll be fine with me as well, because it still goes in line with the February 1st.
Yeah, that would, but I just wanted y'all to understand that is another issue out there.
Yeah, thank you. And for clarity for anyone who may be watching, again, let's just say in 2 hours we have a third reading, we're able to pass the budget. Then if there aren't 8 votes, let's just say if it's 5-4 or 6-2, what have you, if there aren't 8 votes, then the budget would still pass and would not go into effect until 30 days after that versus going into effect immediately. I will say the issue to that is, and then I'll have to work with finance, if it doesn't go immediately, what happens, members of the board, because while we may have a room full of firefighters, what doesn't happen is the other 2,000 employees may not be happy because their 1.75% raise, which is not comparable to what police and fire are getting, they won't even get that on January 1. And so that'll be a delay into their raise. I'm gonna be very clear that we will be delaying the raise of the other 2,000 employees in the city of Little Rock. Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. And I was going to get to that point, so I appreciate you making it. The other thing I wanted to be clear on with the city attorney, I understand that our ordinance has a December 31st deadline, and I think you said today and last week we would need to do something if we didn't pass a budget by December 31st. When you say do something, what does that mean? That means amending the ordinance, making some type of emergency ordinance. What is do something if we're not able to pass a budget by December 31st?
Give him
I
the
think-
microphone.
Emily,
There's
just
two
help.
ways to
Yeah,
approach
thank you,
that.
Emily.
One is to somehow pass an ordinance suspending that provision for a period of time before December the 31st. The second is to, in the budget, have a provision that would ratify what was done despite the ordinance on the 31st.
But so you gave us two options. The first option, we would need to have an ordinance saying that it's not December 31st, which means you would need to prepare an ordinance, and then we would need to have another meeting anyway to vote on that, correct?
Right, right, and not the 31st or suspend the 31st for the year 2024 would be the same ordinance.
Right, and we would still need 3 readings and 8 votes to do that. So that doesn't really move the needle per se.
That's why I don't think it
logistically.
can be done between now and the 31st if there's a problem. And so then the only thing the board can do is then do something to ratify any actions between December the 31st and the date the ordinance is passed.
Okay, I understand that. So that means it's layman's term, essentially backdated to December 31st, but we still will have the issue, I guess what you just mentioned, Mayor, is that if it's after January 1st, then the people who are getting raises wouldn't get the raise on January 1st.
Correct. Director Peck and then Vice Mayor Webb.
Thank you. This is a line item in the budget, and I think we need to take a look at it. Again, this is primarily, I'm here for the firefighters. I'm not a member of the union, but I could be. Looking out at all of these folks, we have some serious livability and safety problems in the fire stations. Mayor, I know we've talked about this before. I've talked to Chief Hubbard about it. There's a very, very long list. Some of the items have been on there for years. Nothing gets done about it. The firefighters are a pretty crafty group of men and women and can do some repairs on their own, but some obviously can't. There's some troubling ones. The older fire stations with rat infestations, bat infestations, which is a huge health hazard, bay doors that won't open. I mean, the list goes on, and some of them have been on there for years. I mean, we're asking these people to put their lives on the line for us every day, but we are forcing them to live in uninhabitable situations in some of these firehouses. I know there was some money in the city building services that we actually cut a couple of years ago. I don't even know if there's any funding now. I don't know if fire stations have a separate line item. I don't know what's wrong with the system because different firefighters tell me that people come by and look at it and nothing ever happens. There's a particularly disturbing situation with the bat infestation that's been going on for years that advises anybody if they need to get equipment out of the hose tower that they need to put a respirator on. I mean, how absurd is that? I'm really trying not to get mad and emotional, but I am, and I'm looking out at these men and women and saying, we are letting you all down. The system is broken, and I know we have no money. I get it, but we have got to find something to bring these places back up to a livable and safe place. And I will continue to talk about this every week until we get something done. I mean, how can y'all look at these people and ask them to do their job when they're living in such deplorable conditions?
And
I'm
thank you.
frustrated.
Thank you for sharing your frustration, Director Peck.
Am I the only one that's frustrated?
This is the first time,
No,
again,
but this is the first I've heard of this. That's why I'm,
that,
Go on.
and,
It's been going on for years. Just talk to any of the firefighters.
and so Director Peck and Director Lewis, again, as you're sharing, the city, which includes all of us, as we try to fund all needs of the entire city, we've had to utilize dollars as we see fit to make those renovations. Clearly, we would love to have new buildings, hence the reason why we had it in the sales tax. It didn't pass. We don't have the new money. I will say, as Vice Mayor Webb has shared, and also Director Computers, we do know we have some emergency funding that we all discussed that we would utilize, figure out how to utilize that in the first quarter of 2025. That's something we discussed during the budget meetings. However, that doesn't fix the widespread problem. But as you shared, this is something that's been going on for decades, and we've tried to do a patch mill until we can get new funding. But this is the first time that we've heard this in this kind of form, but we do know that the Chief Hubbard has done a great job in patching it up with the dollars that he receives from this city board in the budgeting process. But we do have some emergency funds that we can consider, but full transparency, it's not enough. I mean, we could probably use the entire emergency fund on one fire station. So we're not being fully transparent to everyone unless if we're going to tackle the issue, you tackle the entire issue. And so we got about $8 to $10 million, Emily, right, in the emergency fund to build a new fire station. Fire Station 25 is how much, Director, Ms. Emily?
We had set aside over $2 million in ARPA funds for that, and I don't have the final cost.
And so that's and our CFO is saying it's actually $6 million it's going to take to get it done. And so again, that's just for a new building and the patchwork on some of the things that you're referencing. We just don't have the money. I wish we did. If we had the money, we could get it done. But we hear that as a priority. It's been a priority. It will continue to be a priority as we have funds available from that. Vice Mayor Webb, then Director Hines.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, and I'm going to switch gears for a second, and then I'm going to come back to that. If I remember correctly, following up on something Director Phillips said last week, and then it reminded me when Director Adcock was talking, is there enough money in the budget to operate the micro village for 2025? That would be my first question.
Yes.
Okay, so that is covered, the
Yes.
operating expenses. Okay, and the second thing is, I met with Director Sarthy and Acting City Manager Cox a while back and talked about how a different kind of budget document would be advisable, something that is a lot more detailed, and I'm hoping that moving forward, and you and I have talked about this, that we can,
Yes, ma'am.
we can see that kind of thing. And I mean, I do want to address what Director Peck said briefly. You know, I was at a neighborhood meeting a year or so ago when they talked about having a fundraiser to do repairs at a fire station, and it's like, I mean, it's like, you know, the PTA having a bake sale to do something that was one of the most basic things in our city. And we did allocate ARPA money and other funds for some of those repairs, but I would like a more detailed description of what is needing, what the cost is, to imagine that I didn't know we had people who were wearing respirators.
That's the first I heard of that. Chief Hubbard hadn't ever shared that with me again. There may be a sign, but that's the first I heard of. Again, Chief Hubbard has been here before you all for the past few weeks. That has been brought up. Now, clearly, there are always things that a team member can share at a moment's notice that may not be a good light. That's any organization. And again, that's news to me. And number two, the city board hadn't shared that kind of emphasis on redoing any new buildings for the fire department because we know we can't afford it. So I just want to be very clear. We've been discussing this for 4 or 5 weeks. This is the first that these buildings have come up. However, I do believe we all know we wanted to address it in the sales tax. We couldn't do it with the sales tax, and as Vice Mayor Webb and Director Computers, we've all discussed that we have to figure out how do we want to utilize this $10 million, because one instance was for, we talked about Rebsamen Park, but we were able to handle that through the renewed Little Rock bonds. We had a very detailed conversation about that, I might add. And so even though we got $10 million, you're not going to fix every one of those issues. Again, that wasn't a priority demonstrated by the chief of our fire department, because he understands everything that has to get done. And quite frankly, we could probably get all of the, if we didn't, as we share with members of the city board, so this is not doing outline, the amount of raises that we give for both police and fire at the detriment of the other employees, we could get a lot of that done. So if we didn't give the percentage raises, we could probably get about 4 or 5 of these buildings done today. So, but we got to balance that, as you all know, because you all have other residents who come to you about different things. So it's about adding and subtracting. So we can not have raises and we can get all the buildings done quite quickly. Did you have one more before I go to Director Hines?
I mean, I do, just to, I mean, 2 comments. One, I think we didn't know about respirators, and
I didn't either. That's news to me. Yeah, neither one of us. Yeah, that's
and new
news to me.
buildings are not going to happen, but that is a life and death matter. And I would caution us. I would not characterize raises to our first responders who put their lives on the line as doing that as a detriment to other city employees.
I'm not saying that. We're paying our police and fire. We're giving them very good raises compared to the consumer rate. Most folks in this city are not receiving more than 3% raises. They're just not. And so we got to balance what we spend, because what we just heard is that for those folks who give their life, both police and fire, that the interest was on their well-being in the buildings that they live in. And so the question is, do we want to give them raises, or do we want to fix the buildings with the finite amount of money that we have? I think we want to give them raises. This city board has shown that. And I think the firefighters saying that, yes, do they want both? Yes, everybody wants both. But if you got to choose, I think they want the raises.
Mayor.
Yeah. Director Hines, I got to get to Director Hines.
Okay.
To stay in order.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Hines.
One, I want to apologize for being late. I got hung up in some holiday traffic, not calculating my time from West Little Rock back to City Hall. I was fully ready to go ahead and put this on third reading, because I find it very interesting, the one term that came up a couple weeks ago when Director Peck brought up the subject of why are we increasing Sister Cities fund by $15,000, and to add another junket, we could be using that money for litter pickup. I think strikes a chord as being very cavalier, that it's not real money. It's very cavalier that we don't have money in our budget, because our sales tax, our tax proceeds to the city have done nothing but increase year over year for the last 6-7 years. We have an issue with the priorities of how we spend our money, and this is something that's been bubbling up in what's fair. And I will tell you, there is nothing fair about the difference that our first responders, our firefighters, and our police do versus everybody else in the city. And you're right, it's not fair. And you may not like it, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to support it, and I'm going to do it. And I think we could do all. The other thing I tend to hear, Mayor, you keep throwing this up. Well, I haven't increased my head count in OEA, but you have reorganized it in a way that doesn't, in my opinion, deliver needed services to the end users of our city, our taxpayers. And through the last 2 sales tax votes, what we have gotten is a clear message from our constituents that you don't need to show us that you can do better with the money you're getting. And I think some of that would be maybe looking at where we're spending our money the salaries we're paying to some folks who don't deliver frontline services. This city board, and predates me, the last time we had a reduction in force, but every time we had a reduction in force at this city, it's been the frontline folks who do the work, whether it's in public works, parks, our firefighters, our police officers. We have never taken a serious look at management and administrative areas of the city. I'm fully prepared to come back in 2 hours. I've got an amendment I'd like to make to our budget. I was looking at putting it towards what our homelessness and our code enforcement officers, but it sounds like we've got a whole bunch of folks that need services. This is a clear pattern since predates me getting on the board, but since we've been on the board, that we can build stuff and not maintain it. I know there's been several bond issues before I ever got on the board where we had a specific bond issue where money for our firehouses to rehab them and get them in livable conditions. And there's no reason we couldn't do that again. But I think we've already got the money within our budget if we looked really hard to be able to do some of those things. And Mayor, you're correct. Some of those positions have been there before you got on the board. One of them was created by this board I think at the objection of Director Adcock and maybe Director Wyrick a few years ago. If I remember right, it's been a minute when Mayor Stoll was here, but you know, I think it's very cavalier to think that we don't have the money and we can't do more with what we're doing. I think we really have to look at what we're doing at administrative cost and overhead and positions to me that they're duplicative of what other departments are already supposed to be doing as part of our DNA. But yeah, I'm ready to come back and vote on this and try to amend it. I think I've got an amendment ready. I may need to reconsider where those extra funds that I think we can generate are, but I think the voters have been really clear about us being accountable, clear, and transparent, and that we're headed in the wrong direction. I think that's been clear through two sales tax votes. And if we don't course correct, we might as well forget bringing up the fact we had it in a sales tax. It's failed twice now. We're not getting that money. We have the money to deal with what we're going to deal with. We made a commitment to all of our employees to try to give them pay raises, keep up with the cost of living through this inflationary period, and do the right thing by them. But that may come at the expense of some other folks who are policy related and not necessary or essential to the day-to-day functioning of the city.
Thank you so much, Director Hines. Number one, the last time the city had a reduction in force, it was a percentage and went across the entire city, frontline and administrative in 2019 when I got into office. I want to make sure we correct the record from that standpoint. Secondly, we can come back in 2 hours. If your amendment is something that creates too much disruption, I will veto it. I want to be very clear from that standpoint so we're not wasting anyone's time because we're now in the 9th hour. You've never made any of these comments over 5 to 6 weeks. We're here because some firefighters have gotten to you all on a non-monetary issue. And irrespective, let's just say your amendment passes, I'm still not changing my mind on the non-monetary issue as it relates to 4896. Unless the federal government tells me to in an arbitration process. So I don't want to waste anyone's time, but all this new information that's coming at the 9th hour, you all are being used right now. No one can say that we don't care about police and fire because we do. We've shown above and beyond high potential raises, and you're right, it's not fair. As a son of a firefighter, retired firefighter, you're right, it's not fair. So we understand that the raises are going to be more than the day-to-day employees. That's the reason why we've given raises that are above the consumer rate right now. But we're not here about raises. That's not the issue. The issue is a scheduling change. That's it. Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor.
Did you pass me up?
I thought you already, he was already next after Director.
I can defer Director Wyrick.
No, I just wanted you to know that I have something to say, so if you want Phillips to go ahead, that's fine. You're in
Director
charge.
Phillips, then, but also, What I have is Director Adcock. Is your hand still up, Director Adcock? Okay. And then Director Peck, is your hand still up? All right.
Well, I'll be very brief, Director Warwick. I did raise my hand because I thought Director Lewis wanted to say something when she was on screen, so I was raising my hand for her. But she's off screen, so maybe she didn't have anything to add. But I will say to Director Hines, if there's an amendment to the budget that you're going to propose, I hadn't seen it yet, so I don't think I will be ready to vote on that in 2 hours. So, and I'm not, you have every right to propose an amendment, but I just want more time to make sure I understand what the changes are. So logistically, and I know Director Wiry said I be pushy sometimes, I just like to know where we're going. If we're not voting today, when is the meeting so we can vote? That's what I would want to say. Because it doesn't look like we're voting today.
Sure thing. Director Wiry, then Director Adcock.
Thank you, Mayor. The things that Director Peck has brought up is the first time that I've ever heard them. And, you know, we sat down in budget hearings and we heard from each department director, including the fire chief. He never raised this issue. And to me, this has got as much as importance as the turnouts, you know, the secondary turnouts that the city purchased for the firefighters, and then the cancer screening. I mean, these rise to that occasion. So if there is additional money that we can put into the budget for that, I'm all about that. But it's a health and safety issue for our firefighters, so we need to see if we can do something. Mayor, is there any grant funding that we can get in regards to firefighters? And then also behind that, we have set aside some money for grants, future grants. To me, this steps up to a level that we need to approach immediately. Can we use some of that grant money to go forward to help with some of the issues that they have?
Yes, ma'am. We can look. Yeah, we definitely can. That seems like a priority. Again, I'm glad you shared. That's the first time you heard it. It's a lot of information. First time we heard it today.
Yeah.
So yes, again, I want to stress with the city board, we had, and to Director Hines' credit, we got $10 million. We can fix one or two different buildings, but I also know you all are going to have to make some decisions because some other things that I know you all have been saying you want to spend that money on as well. To Director Hines, we'll just have to see his amendment, and hopefully I don't have to veto it, but we'll have to see that.
Well, you may have lost my vote for the budget if we can't find something to help. So
yes,
that's why I'm bringing it up.
Right, and I appreciate that. Something to help is in the budget. Again, it has to come from Director Wyrick, has to come from the emergency funds. But that's a vote you all have to take. We got the money right now. If we want to fix Station 9 or just pick a station that may need some help, I'm just using that as a example. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I'm just using that example. If we want to pick said station, any station, more than one station, that comes from that pot of money that you all said you have some other ideas for. That's all I'm saying. And I can bring it to you all, but that may disturb some other plans, directors you all have shared with me that you all have with that money. Director Peck, then Director Hines.
Mask on because I've had the flu and I want to keep you all well. Regarding the first time we've heard about this, first of all, is Chief Hubbard here? I mean, I have a great relationship with Chief Hubbard. I respect Chief Hubbard. We talk and meet on a regular basis. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I can't believe this is the first time some of us have heard about these things. I've been hearing about these things for a couple of years, some things that have been on the list for years. We don't need to raise buildings and have shiny new firehouses to take place of some of these old ones. We have a lengthy list. We need to address the livability and the safety issues, the bats, the rodents, the mold, the mildew, the bays that won't open, some critical things. We're not asking for chandelier and paints and new beds and big screen TVs. They are safety and livability issues. So I don't know if anybody on this board can really say, I've never heard anything about this. If not, then you're not talking to these people. And maybe I talk to them because some of them are my constituents, but I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I do think that some of you have known about the problems in some of these fire stations for quite some time. I know Chief Hubbard does. It's just that things don't get addressed. And I cannot look at these men and women and ask them to live in these unsafe conditions. I just can't. We've got to find the money. We've got to do it.
Yes, Director Peck, and one idea is, I mean, we can not do the new fire station, and we can divert those dollars. I mean, there's options. I don't think we need to do that. I'm just giving an example. But again, there are lists in every department that have been not addressed for years because it takes money. And so that none of this stuff that's come to us fruition today has not been a priority from the fire department at all, because we've been trying to address other things that they deem priority and have gotten done for them. Director Hines?
Yes, Mayor, going back to some of our conversations over the last couple of weeks, and probably it all came to a head over the weekend for me when I was looking at some previous constituent emails back from actually May. And it really just became clear that sometimes where our priorities are, from an administration standpoint, seem to be out of step with delivering city services as a whole. I welcome your veto if, the amendments I have are, I've got them written up and I'll pass them out to my fellow directors for their perusal, but I'm gonna bring them up and ask for a vote. This is, as anything with government, you've, I think, actually called us dysfunctional or the appearance of dysfunction. This is actually good functioning government to have vigorous debate and win or lose your ideas in the public forum. And that's what I'm willing to do whenever we reconvene and take the votes. And that's really kind of all I've got to say about that. I've tried to sit on the sidelines and let the negotiations continue. I was hoping that your meetings Friday would have yielded better stuff. And if it's true that it's purely non-financial, then more power be it. But I guess at some point, if we'll see where those go. But the word I got is y'all hadn't reached an agreement, and like I said,
No, thank you so.
And don't be confused that the stuff I'm calling for an amendment of has nothing to do with the firefighters.
I'm sure it doesn't.
This just has to do with something that I feel communication from our voters on whether we're going the right direction or wrong direction in this city, and the fact that I just think that we need to take some course corrections, and in my view, there's some administrative positions that don't benefit our taxpayers.
Mayor, can I make a
I just,
point?
can I say something, please? Because I'm not understanding, and again,
We've already, we already came to you, Director Adcock, but hold on one second. Director Lewis, Director Phillips is next after Director Hines. Then we can go to Director Lewis. I know Director Lewis doesn't have a handheld, and then we can come to you, Director Adcock. But before Director Hines goes, Director Hines, please feel free to do it. Clearly, I understand what you may try to do is come after the Office of Executive Administration. That's fine. We'll veto that. Last I know is that the city is going very well based on our budgeting practices and administrative from that standpoint. Yes, we did lose a sales tax. This whole entire city lost a sales tax. And we will continue to move forward, but we have to prioritize what you all say. And based off the 10 voices, this budget before you, up until today, has been what you all have shared. Like you said with the Sister Cities Commission, again, that's an issue that's nowhere near comparable to fire or police at all. I want to be very clear, nowhere near comparable, but it got included because some members of the board wanted certain things. That's what this budget represents. But if you want to try to dismantle disruption something, that's great. We'll have the public debate. I'll veto it, and we'll move on down the road. But to Director Phillips' standpoint is we need to schedule this. I know Director Campiris has to leave here shortly. So my question before we go to Director Phillips, Director Lewis, Director Adcock, then we'll end this debate and we're gonna schedule a meeting. The question, before we do that, are we okay with meeting tomorrow at noon? No, okay. Are we okay with meeting noon on the 26th? If you,
All I know is when we do come up with this new date, I'm tired of the shenanigans. With this board, we need to come together and figure out what it is that we're going to convey for our constituents and everybody involved. Because at the end of the day, we have had meeting after meeting after meeting the last few weeks. And this stuff that is coming up now, it's brand new from our board members. I'm not understanding why we can't pick up the phone, text or email and have these discussions. But it's always when we get on a public platform, that's when we want to show the discord. I stated that before and I'm stating it now. So the next time we meet, I hope we can come together with some type of resolve.
thank you,
This
Director
makes no
Lewis.
sense.
Director Phillips?
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to make sure I'm clear on a couple things. Director Hines, the amendment that you're proposing does not address the issues that Director Peck was talking about today. Is that correct? And I hear the mayor saying that there's some reserve money for us to deal with some of the issues that Director Peck mentioned. To me, it sounds like we just need to schedule a policy meeting in January to have this discussion about what those issues are, where the money comes from, and prioritize what needs to happen. So, Mayor, my request to you and the acting city manager is to have a policy meeting early in January so we can figure out, we can hear from a fire representative. Chief, I don't know if that's you. I don't know if that's a union representative, but someone needs to come to us and tell us, okay, what are all these things are, so then we can decide how we can spend the money in the reserves that we do have. So, Mayor, I know you were trying to figure out the schedule, but I think we need to schedule a policy meeting early in January to address these issues about how to spend the reserve funds, because that's not happening in the budget. If I'm hearing everything correctly, that's not happening in the budget anyway. So we just need to schedule a separate meeting and figure out how to spend those monies and move on with this discussion is my recommendation.
Awesome. Thank you so
And
much.
the question is, when we do meet, can everything be aired out rather than we meeting and then we get on this public platform and then brand new stuff is brought up again by our board members? So I'm just asking, can we all lay it all on the table during that next meeting? I am tired of wasting our time and our constituents' time with new stuff that we keep bringing up that we don't want to share when we are behind closed doors amongst each other. That's how a board works.
And Director Lewis, to that point, that's why I recommended if we have the policy discussion, whether it's the chief or someone from the union, we need to have someone here at that meeting explaining what the issues are so we can figure out how to spend the reserve money to address those issues. So that's why I made that suggestion, Director Lewis.
Right. I would say that the chief needs to visit with the union on that, as he often does, and he creates the priority list because he understands he only has so much money, and he creates that priority list. So the union won't be speaking on behalf of the fire department, it'd be the chief of the fire department who often visits with them from that standpoint. But again, he has to get it to a prioritization. As I shared, Director Pierce will tell you right now, there is a list of needs and wants for the Parks and Recreation that haven't been touched in 20 years based on funds available. And yes, Director.
And our statement of value for our property is $750 million. So we've got lots of property, lots of city property.
Yes, you're right. Director Adcock is next, but I forgot about that. As we try to redo things, it also impacts our insurance. Thank you for sharing that. Director Adcock.
Mr. Carpenter, I have a question for you, please. Can this board meet behind closed doors and discuss city business?
No.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the meetings that we've had the last
Director
few
Lewis,
weeks.
Director Lewis, you're coming out of turn.
Mayor, I have a meeting at 2 o'clock today, and it's with some legal people that I cannot miss.
Yes, ma'am. So everyone, we will have based on the scheduling, we'll have the third reading. I want to be very clear for members of the public. What happens is at the third reading, you have to have the 8 people here to go to a third reading. And then since there's generally 9 members present at this time, It will take 5 members to pass a budget, and based off what the city
Not quite, Mayor.
takes.
You call it another special meeting, you just have the third reading. You don't have to suspend the rules.
Oh, great, great.
You will take 6 votes to pass the budget.
Right.
It will take 8 votes to pass the emergency clause.
Yes, 6. Thank you for that clarification. 6 votes to pass the budget, 8 to pass the emergency. If the emergency is not passed, everyone, basically what that means is that it won't go into effect for 30 days. And so that 30 days will be the 30 days of the other, well, not other, but because right now we got police situated and not fire. And so it'll be police and the other employees not getting their raise for 30 days. So I want to be clear on that end. As I shared again, that the issue is not monetary, Director Hines. We literally, as of Saturday night, we're talking and gave even more as it relates to monetary stuff. The issue right now is a non-monetary issue. And if we have to go to federal arbitration, we will go to federal arbitration. That will be the only way that it happens. We will now, we'll get a motion for executive session. A motion, a second. Is Mr. Lorenzo, you have to, Mr. Solon, I know you're raising your hand. Our process is you sign in, you didn't sign in, so.
I wasn't planning on speaking until you said something that wasn't correct.
Well, that's how the cookie crumbles and how this is. You just can't pick and choose when you speak. So, Mr. Lorenzo Robinson, if you'll just quickly give us, you want to give us a quick update before we go to executive session? But please make it quick because the board members have to. You can come to the podium. Just make it quick for us.
Thanks for let me have this time. I don't know if all of you guys are aware or not, but there is a Major League Football franchise coming to the state of Arkansas, and I am the GM of the Arkansas franchise. We're going to be called the Arkansas Smoke. The colors will be black, white, and silver. And so my objective for today was just to let the city council know and ask for your support and blessing for this new franchise that will be coming fall of 2025.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Well, we had a motion second go to recess for executive session. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed,
I
please say
need to
nay.
know who I didn't hear who it
The
was.
second was Director Phillips. All ayes have it. We'll go into executive session.
Are you leaving?
We're coming back from executive session to discuss appointments, and then we'll do immediate adjournment. All those in favor of Wendell Scales to the Little Rock Food Commission, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. All those in favor of Bill Walker to the airport, reappointment to the Airport Commission, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Is there a motion to, there's a roll call from Director Peck? Madam Clerk?
Director Adcock? Director Miller?
Director Miller, are you on mute?
I think it's on here.
He's on what?
Director Miller?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you share your aye and nay?
I'm looking at myself.
I haven't heard anything.
You guys can't see me?
Yeah, we can. Restate it then.
They're making appointments for the Little Rock Airport Commission, and it was for Bill Walker for reappointment, and we had a roll call vote for that. So yes or no
okay.
for Bill Walker. Director
Yes.
Miller? Yeah. Director Peck?
Yes.
Director Hines? No. Director Lewis?
Yes.
Director Wyrick? Director Campuris? Director Phillips?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Webb?
Yes from Vice Mayor Webb.
6-3.
6-3. Thank you so much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
It failed.
All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.